All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to your Wednesday night webinar with No CD. Lisa de Guzman was supposed to be with us tonight, but she had something come up at the last minute and is unfortunately unable to be here this evening. So it will be me solo. Hope that's okay and acceptable to everybody. So let's get a little about who we are, what we do. I'm Dr. Patrick McGrath. I'm the Chief Clinical Officer here at NoCD, and I oversee our company's clinical protocols and our team of OCD specialists that we have here at NoCD. We are the world's leading provider of virtual therapy for obsessive compulsive disorder. Yeah, pretty cool, huh? We love it. We offer evidence based treatments to children, adolescents, and adults struggling with OCD. And we do that nationally here in the US and internationally. We work in, well, all over the place is where we work. So if you're struggling with OCD, hey, reach out to us. We want to help you as much as possible. All of our therapists are licensed or are being supervised by people who are licensed, and we're really really excited about that. And it all kind of flows up to me. So I am as the chief clinical officer, the head guy around here. So it's a pleasure to be with you here tonight. My team of OCD specialists and I here at NoCD provide evidence-based treatment to children and adolescents and adults struggling with OCD symptoms. We accept most major insurance plans. Our therapists do live face-to-face video sessions with all of the members that are here with us through the NoCD platform. And between sessions, well, you can get help from peer support communities and self-help tools that we have available for you as well. So check us out. Go to nocd.com if you're interested in meeting with us, and you can talk to members of our care team and set up a free 15-minute appointment to see if NoCD therapy might be right for you. So we look forward to working with you. And hey, why don't we go in and get into some of our Q&A tonight? So Peter starts off with hi, Dr. McGrath. Since my OCD symptoms started, I have realized that I'm always in an anxious state. For example, when socializing, I'm always trying to come up with something to say, or while doing your driving lessons, you're constantly in panicky state. So you keep making mistakes, or when you're alone, you feel like you can never relax. The problem is this anxious state interferes so much with your life that you can't make it stop. Also, you've noticed that you're always on edge and get angry very easily. Before OCD, you would never get angry. You were the calmest person in every situation and wish you could be that way again. Well, Peter, thanks for first of all for reaching out. We really appreciate it. It's nice to hear from you. And sorry that all of this is going on. We hate to hear that, but here's what I think. First of all, it's not uncommon that people who are anxious are feeling on edge, right? In fact, sometimes I've said anxious people live in kind of a neutral to angry stage of life. If you feel good while you're anxious, you could let your guard down, and if you let your guard down, well, then something bad could happen, right? So you wouldn't want that to happen. So you keep your guard up, you stay kind of neutral, or maybe even a little frustrated, because that kind of keeps you always looking around to make sure no one's around the corner or something bad's going to be happening. And what you say there, Peter, is interesting that you're constantly panicking. And I'm wondering if that's because, and you state here, and I like that you state this, maybe you're so afraid of making a mistake that it makes you make mistakes, right? You said that for socializing as well, too. You're so worried about trying to come up with something to say that maybe you make mistakes when you try to come up with something to say. Peter, I want you to practice the uncomfortable things. I want you to practice being in discomfort. I want you to practice allowing for silence to be there. I want you to practice not trying to be perfect while you're driving, right? Um, the the attempt to be perfect leads to failure. It's a pretty instantaneous guarantee that we are going to fail the moment that we try to be perfect. And so that is not what we want to do. We do not want to try to be perfect. First of all, OCD has never, ever once, anyway, accepted that anybody did anything perfect. So we know that that's not going to happen. So you're never actually going to satisfy your OCD by doing something perfectly because your OCD will never accept that you did anything perfect. I think we can all just agree on that one, that that's the way that it goes. There is no perfect in the world of OCD, though OCD demands it. Remember, it is nicknamed the doubting disorder, and the doubting disorder doubts everything but wants absolute guarantees. How can you give the doubting disorder an absolute guarantee if it doubts everything? It is impossible to do. One cannot do it. Therefore, the goal is not, absolutely is not, to give OCD absolute answers, because there's no way to do that. The goal is to teach people that they can handle not having absolute answers, that they can have doubt, that they can have uncertainty. And Peter, don't forget, you live with doubt every day. You have no idea while walking up and down stairs that you're going to make it without falling, right? So you already live with doubt on a daily basis. You've just decided that maybe in some areas doubt is unacceptable. Not being perfect is unacceptable in some areas, though it is okay in other areas. And I want you to accept the fact that perfect is never going to be your option. It should never be your goal, because the people who fail very often are the people whose goal is to do perfect. I like to golf, but I can tell you I can ruin my golf game very easily by thinking about my golf game. you know, Once my head gets in the game, I'm kind of done. If I'm going off muscle memory and things, I can make minor adjustments and think about certain things. But you've seen people, even professionals, who've just literally on the tour walked off the course because they can't get out of their head. They're stuck in their head, and they're like, you know what? It's just not happening. I'm not feeling it. It's not working, and they got to go. So, Peter, do a little mistake practice. Purposely make tiny little mistakes and teach yourself that you can handle those, and that the reactions that people have to them are really no big deal whatsoever. And when you start to do that and learn that you can handle it, they won't be such a big deal anymore. Christy says, "Hey, Dr. McGrath, can ERP apply to general anxiety?" Of course. And does your brain over time learn to stop overreacting? Absolutely, it can. You've been doing ERP for your OCD and it's helping, but you also have GAD and get a sense of random dread, fear over seemingly nothing, like something bad may happen or I should be worried about something. Thanks. Yeah, I think you can absolutely do ERP to all of those things, Christy, and will find it to be amazingly helpful for that as well. So give it a go, see what you think, and let us know in the future how it went. You can allow for worries to be there. What is generalized anxiety disorder? It's a lot of worry, right? You can allow for worries to be there and learn that you can handle having worries, that you don't need to be afraid of worries, you don't need to be overwhelmed by worries. Worries are really no big deal. They're just that, they're just worries. That's it. AA says, "You're female. Why do I feel so obsessed with a certain male celebrity? I fell in love with him after attending his concert because I felt he made eye contact with me 6 times, and you can't stop thinking about him. Um, why do you fall for guys so easily? I feel like there's something wrong with me. I'm scared to watch a show, movie, concert with good looking males because you're afraid that you will fall in love with them and feel obsessed with them and want to marry them. This attraction is so intense, I cannot focus on more important things, and you feel so embarrassed to even talk about this." Well, thanks for bringing it up here. I think that uh, people here would understand. Um, oh, there's some more things here, but I'll just let me read it over real quick and I'll summarize. You keep obsessing about his height uh, because he looks shorter than me at the concert. You don't know how much shorter. Uh, you are okay with guys who are a little shorter than you, but not too much. You're constantly thinking, but what if he's not that much shorter? Okay, so you can't get all of those thoughts out of your head, right? Um, AA, boy, how many of us went to a concert and felt as if we fell in love with one of the performers? I think many a person my age going back into the 1980s can think of Nancy Wilson from Heart, who was the heartthrob of many a rock junkie back in the day, as myself. And it is very easy to become enamored with people, especially people that will likely never meet, because we can live in a fantasy world with that person, right? And in that fantasy world, we don't ever argue, things go well. It's, you know, unicorn farts and rainbows, and then the doubts come in, like you have there. But what if they're too short, or what if suddenly something isn't attractive about them, and I don't know, and you get caught up in this, and here's the thing: I don't know yet from your reading about this if this is OCD, or if this is what sometimes people refer to as, oh, you're obsessed with somebody, right? With the quote unquote word obsessed, which I've never been a fan of using that word outside of obsessive compulsive disorder myself. I like to be a bit of a purist in my definitions of things. But it isn't uncommon for people to really fall for someone and feel as if there's a connection there, or if you were to meet that person, that there would be a connection there. But what I would practice doing is living the life that you live with the notion that you might not ever meet this person. I'm not saying you never will. Who knows? It could happen, right? I'm not saying you're never going to meet this person. If the likelihood is not great, though, could you have it where you could absolutely meet other people, date other people? You might feel like, yeah, but then won't I be cheating on them in my head if I'm thinking about this other person and I have this connection that I feel to this other person? And I wonder if you start to interact with people on a real level, and real I mean in terms of actual interactions with people, and being able to actually talk to them, or be with them, hold hands with them, whatever it is that may happen, that some of these other things that might feel more that you're obsessed with, right, might kind of fade away over time, right? um, I think many of us who have our first crushes on whatever uh, whatever celebrity it may be, will always hold a dear place in our heart for that person, but also know that that's what it's going to be. And at this point, you're kind of in the enamored stage potentially. And it is interesting though, where you say, "Why do you fall for people so easily?" You feel like there's something wrong with you. Um, I think a lot of people also feel that as well too. That you meet someone and it's just instantaneously, when are we going to get married kind of experience, right? And that is not also uncommon for a lot of people to experience, but it also doesn't mean that that is what is going to happen, or that the other person feels that way as well too, which could cause problems sometimes in relationships if you feel like, well, I feel this strong for you but you don't. So keep an eye on this. Keep an eye on this in terms of potential relationship OCD. And I would say, if you have the access to talk to someone, reach out and chat with someone about this, and be able to work some of this out and see how it goes. Darla says, you have tinnitus and OCD. You worry that it is connected to dementia. That pops up in Facebook news feed every now and then. Oh, I've seen that one too. Yeah. There's that somewhat British robot guy going, did you know that tinnitus is now the new dementia? It's a horrible robot British voice, by the way. There, I apologize to all British robots. But you know, a lot of these things are done just to scare the heck out of people, and maybe there's some relationship to these things too. But you know how many relationships there are to so many things that are out there in the world about what we could or could not do, or drink or not drink, or eat or not eat, or smell or not smell, or inhale or not inhale, or whatever it might be. That if that was the case, we should all probably live in a plastic bubble, because that'd be the only way that we could filter all of the air and all the food and everything that comes into us, and live that way. Um, yeah, you know what? I have tinnitus, or tinnitus, depending on how you pronounce it, and maybe it will be a precursor to dementia. So, you know what that means for me? I'm going to enjoy the heck out of the life that I have right now that I'm remembering and functioning in. And that way, when I do have dementia and I don't remember anything, at least I'll have enjoyed all the time that I had prior to dementia. And that's how I'm going to look at it, right? Uh, I could spend all my time starting today worrying about what will happen when I get dementia, but I don't think I'm really going to enjoy my life very much if that's the way that I'm going to approach it. So I'm choosing not to approach it that way because I just don't think that it's going to get me what I want to get. B says you suffer with pedophilic OCD thoughts, including thoughts that come in from or in forms of questions or commands, such as you like this, you feel like you want this, do you like this? And then when you try to solve or argue the thought, it just feels this sense of fear and doubt, which is scary. Then you feel guilt for feeling doubt and even questioning these thoughts. Can OCD make you feel this way? Any tips? Well, usually, whenever the question is, can OCD make you feel this way? The answer is, of course, because OCD is a manipulative jerk that will try to make you feel any way possible in order to get you to do a compulsion. So the answer is yes, OCD can lead you to feeling that kind of way. And don't ever underestimate the power that OCD has to take you down a road that you don't want to go down, to lead you to feel in some kind of way that you don't ever want to feel, so that it will ultimately get you to do a compulsion, because that is ultimately what OCD wants you to do, is to do a compulsion. Because if you don't do the compulsion, then OCD gets very disappointed and hungry and it will try to get you to do more compulsions. So that's why we do response prevention, because we do not want you to do the compulsion, and we want you to learn that you can handle not doing the compulsion. And once you learn that you can handle not doing the compulsion, then I think you'll start to feel better. That's where we want you to go. So, B, please recognize this, that yes, these thoughts are going to be uncomfortable and you're going to play with them. You're going to think, oh, but it's a command now. So, uh, so my command to myself is is to take this candle holder right here and smash it against my face. That's the command that I have in my head right now, and I'm going to hold on to that command for this entire one. The last one we did last week, if you remember, was for the ceiling to collapse on me and for the house to catch on fire. That still has not happened yet. Let's see if the command this week of taking that candlestick and smashing it against my face that I'm holding on about myself now will make me do this, will make me feel like I want to do this, will make me want to do this. And I'm even telling myself, you know what? I really do want to smash that candlestick into my face by the end of this. So within the next 42 minutes, we'll all get to potentially see a show of me smashing a candlestick against my face, because I have a command now in my head to do it. And I feel like I might want to do it as well, too, and that I might like doing it as well. And so, therefore, let's see what occurs. And if at the end of the show it doesn't happen, maybe then we'll have some proof that these commands also don't really count very much and we don't have to pay all that much attention to them whatsoever. The Old Wolf of Farron. Man, I tell you, the names some of you come up with, fabulous, by the way. Just fabulous. Dr. McGrath, OCD therapist, told you that ERP makes you stronger in your values, and you feel like you've been using that as reassurance during ERP. How can you stop using it that way? Um, I mean, I don't have proof that it makes you stronger in your values. What I do believe ERP does is it leads you to lead a life that is more aligned with your values. But I don't know that I have any proof whatsoever that it makes your values stronger or makes you stronger in your values. I would just take a look at what your values are and see, are you living a life that is adhering to those values, or are you living a life that's adhering to what OCD wants you to do? And we know that you probably don't value the things that OCD wants you to do. And so, if you would like to live a life that you value, not a life that OCD is being, paid tons of attention to and worshipped and all those types of things, then what I would like you to do is think of it more in line of, the more ERP I do, the more likely I'm living the life that I want to live and not the life that OCD wants you to live. And that you value the life that you want to live and not the life that OCD wants you to live. I would try that. Ian asks, Where can you find OCD specialized treatment in your country? Is there a channel where you have this information? Ian, reach out to us at nocd.com. Let's see what we can do for you. Okay. Dustin says you've struggled immensely with music getting stuck in your head to the point you avoid listening to most music because it will play on repeat for weeks if your mind recognizes it. Is this OCD? Not necessarily that this is OCD. There are a lot of people who do report this, and many people who have OCD have told me that they have this too. But um, there's not necessarily an obsession about a song stuck in your head. What I would say, though, Dustin, in order to help this, is I'll give you the key therapeutic thing that we often do for people who have this, and that is once a song is stuck in your head, we want you to listen to that song over and over and over again until you're bored with it. Right now, you're probably spending a lot of time trying not to think of that song, and therefore all it's doing is popping in your head. Dustin, would like you to do the opposite. And the opposite would be I would like you to purposely listen to that song over and over and over and over and over again until you are like bored with it to the point that suddenly it's not in your head anymore. Now you might think there's no way that'll happen. I challenge you to try it and see what happens. And I would bet for any of you who also have had this happen that you've seen that if you listen to something more and more over time, it actually kind of falls out of your head versus if you tried not to think. Old Wolf again says, does OCD get worse with age? OCD seems to kind of have a wave go up and down and up and down. We don't necessarily see that it gets worse with age. Hoarding, we do notice that there can be worsening symptoms with age, but OCD seems to hold on to a pretty chronic course for the most part for people. Not that there aren't people who haven't reported that it's gotten worse with age. That has happened and people have reported that, but it's not that it's automatic that as you get older, OCD gets worse for people. Uh, La Muerta says you're currently on a break and have harm OCD around your children. However, OCD is attaching to the thought of, can I do this the whole summer and take care of my kids? Am I going to feel like this? It's saying, are you really okay and can you handle it? Well, I would say this is what you really want to focus on in therapy then is helping yourself deal with the fact that you have these intrusive harm thoughts about your kids so that you can work with a therapist and learn how to handle those thoughts without having to have dread all summer of being around your kids and wondering, oh my gosh, what does it mean that I have dread thoughts when I'm around my children, right? uh, you can absolutely spend the summer being around your kids and enjoy your time with them. There's absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. There's nothing wrong with that. Even if you have intrusive thoughts about them, intrusive thoughts don't make you feel any certain way or not. You know, again, I have this intrusive thought that we're working on that this candlestick by the end of the show will be smashed in my face, and that I like that idea, and that I really want it to happen. So just keep that in mind. That's potentially going to happen now within the next 36 minutes. So we will see. Um, La Muerta, I want you to be around those kids, and I want you to allow yourself the discomfort that you have around them. And I want you to do it without any safety behaviors. And I want you to learn that your children are likely absolutely A-OK, even though you didn't do any safety behaviors to try to make them feel that way or be that way at all. That look at what happened. Even though you had intrusive thoughts, they didn't cause things to happen, right? Uh, there's a lot of planes going over the house tonight. I'm going to have an intrusive thought about the next plane that goes over for it to crash. All right, we'll see if anyone hears about a big plane crash tonight at a major Midwestern airport. We'll see how that goes. All right. Jen, hey, welcome back. Your therapist tells you based on data and her observations that you're getting better. but it doesn't feel that way because you still get stuck in compulsions that seem really big. Why does your OCD seem to completely go away and then it comes back randomly, like it comes in waves? Uh, so, oh, those were two questions that were I combined into one from Jen and one from Food High. But they flowed so nicely together that it actually worked. Uh, you know, I wonder, Jen, if you are experiencing times of compulsing and feeling as if they're bigger than maybe what anyone else is observing them to be. And maybe they're smaller compared to what they've seen you do in the past. Now, you may have the notion that all compulsions are bad compulsions and you should never have any compulsion, and therefore every compulsion is bad, awful, and horrible. Whereas other people are looking at you and saying, in the past, if this happened, you would have freaked out for hours and hours. And now you had a bit of an uptick in symptoms for about, 45 seconds to a minute or something like that. You may still see that as bad and unacceptable. Others look at that as, wow, what an amazing turn of events. And that's awesome. So, Jen, I want to say this in the nicest way, but I like to tell people with OCD that OCD is always going to send a message to you that you're doing horrible and awful, and that the only way to be okay is to do things with OCD. So it's always going to get you to doubt your treatment and your therapy and get you to try to believe that it isn't going as well as it might be going, actually, because that's just the nature of OCD and what it does. And Food High says, why does OCD seem to completely go away and then come back randomly like it comes in waves? It can be waves, right? It can be. There can be times where, you've done really well and you've sat with intrusive thoughts and you're doing okay. The one thing that I say to people who experience this, where then it comes back in a wave, I often try to say to people this very thing right here. Here's what I don't want you to do. Once you're feeling good, I don't want you to stop doing therapy. I don't want you to say, oh, now I'm feeling well. I don't need to do any more ERP. I would like you to do ERP every day on purpose. I would like you to make sure that on a daily basis, you are doing an ERP exercise every single day. Why do I want you to do that? I want you to stay in the habit of it because I don't want something to come back and, you know, suddenly seem like, oh my gosh, I'm back at square one again. No. If you've done something that really works for you and you have learned, I'll tell you what, man, when I do this ERP, things just get better for me. Well, guess what? Do ERP every day then. Just make yourself a little bit better every single day by doing more and more ERP. I think you'll find that to be very helpful. OCD makes me doubt myself. Well, that is what it is because it's going to do that because OCD is the doubting disorder. And therefore, because OCD is the doubting. Oh, and Beth even said that as well too. Thank you, Beth. I'll let Beth's answer go. But yeah, because it's a doubting disorder, it's going to get you to doubt everything, right? Even yourself. So that is the nature, the absolute nature of OCD is doubt and uncertainty. But we say in here all the time, all of us have doubt and all of us have uncertainty all the time about everything. Mm, I still don't have absolute certainty that the ceiling will collapse on me this week and cause a fire. And I don't think I'm going to pick that candlestick up and smash my face with it, but we'll find out in 31 minutes from now if that's the case or not. I've got 31 minutes left to smash my face with the candlestick. And I'm having thoughts that I would like doing that and that I want to do that. So we'll see if it actually happens. Is there thought action fusion? Do thoughts make things occur? Well, we're going to find out. We'll see how it goes. Geraldine says, any perinatal OCD mamas out there? Well, everybody chat away with Geraldine. I hope that y'all find some good solace with each other because believe me, there is such a thing as perinatal OCD. It's not just perinatal or postpartum depression. We absolutely know that there is perinatal OCD as well too, and that people have a lot of OCD symptoms around having kids. And it's not just moms. Dads get it, adoptive parents get it, grandparents get it. You have all sorts. Any caregivers can potentially have it. So it's not just the mamas. Madeline says, "Hey, Dr. McGrath, your OCD gets worse during the evening and before during bedtime. It could do that. If that's when you're starting to get tired and your defenses are going down, your OCD could really try to take advantage of that. Other people talk about it's harder in the morning to deal with OCD, so it's a very personal kind of thing for people. You have to do the X amount of compulsions or you won't sleep. That is what Mr. Poopyhead is blackmailing with. I like that you've named it Mr. Poopyhead, by the way. You feel miserable, tired, need your sleep. Any tips on ERP or how to work this? Madeline, what I would do is this: if you can get a couple of days, maybe it's even a weekend or something like that, where you decide, okay, tonight's the night, not doing any compulsions, and Mr. Poopyhead's probably going to keep me awake tonight. And you know what? I accept that, but I'm still not going to give in. I'm still not going to do any compulsions. And you don't do them. And then the next night you do the same. And the next night you do the same. Eventually you are going to sleep. And eventually Mr. Poopyhead is going to just take a back seat to the whole thing. But, you know, flush Mr. Poopyhead down the toilet. That's what I say. Doing compulsions only keeps Mr. Poopyhead around. Getting rid of compulsions, well, Mr. Poopyhead starts to fade away. So let's get OCD to fade away and not do compulsions. Kyle G starting his first No CD appointment tomorrow. Awesomeness. Awesome. Great to have you here. And we hope it's a great experience. Looking forward to being able to help you. Which is a reminder, by the way, for everybody listening tonight, of course, that you are on our Wednesday night webinar with No CD. And I am Dr. Patrick McGrath. I'm the Chief Clinical Officer at No CD, and my team and I here at No CD provide evidence-based treatment for OCD and hoarding and body-focused repetitive behaviors and tics, and even doing work for some co-occurring trauma and OCD as well too for people. And so if you're looking for treatment, if you're looking for evidence-based care for any of those conditions, we accept most major insurance plans here in the US, but we work internationally as well too. And our therapists do live face-to-face video sessions, and they're licensed. And between sessions, you're going to get support from our peer support communities and our self-help tools as well too. So check us out, right? All of us on the team do therapy. I still do treatment for people as well too. I'm not sitting up in some ivory tower or something like that. You know, uh, it's just part of the culture here at No CD that all of us participate in doing therapy and helping people who have obsessive compulsive and related disorders. Jake says, "Hi, Doc. Trying to figure out if your OCD is what's causing your severe work burnout. You've had a hard time working more than 10, 15 hours a week. Do you know how you can begin figuring out if it is?" Well, you might be depressed, and we know that OCD and depression very often show up with each other. They're like cousins. And therefore, if you think about why they're related, okay, so depression requires one of two things. You either feel depressed or you have a loss of interest or pleasure in things you once enjoyed. You have to have one of those two pieces first for depression. Well, if you think about loss of interest or pleasure in things you once enjoyed, and if you take a look at things you're obsessing about, OCD loves to pick on things that you love or that are important to you. So, what if now you're obsessing about things that you've once had pleasure from or enjoyed, and now you get no pleasure or enjoyment of them out of the obsessions and the compulsions that you do about them? You can understand why now you would feel depressed. Well, if there's things related to work, and let's say that you really enjoyed work and work was really fun for you and you had a great time in it, and now you have worries or concerns about work or obsessions or compulsions around things about work, well, guess what you're going to do? It's going to be harder to go to work, right? You're going to feel all sorts of things about work that just are uncomfortable, and you might start avoiding work more and more, and you might just get more and more tired. Because what's another symptom of depression? Lethargy, feeling tired, feeling worthless, those kinds of things. And therefore, it might just feel exhausting to be able to even do 10 or 15 hours of work because you're just overwhelmed by depression as well too. Jake, I would definitely reach out to a therapist and start working on this so that we can help you and you can get back into work and living the life again that you want to live and not the life that OCD wants you to live. Just so everyone knows, we are potentially 25 minutes away from me smashing my face in with a candlestick. Okay. Beth says OCD latches on to things you care about. Yes. See, Beth's like being me tonight. Thank you, Beth. Beth, you get the honorary therapy helper sticker tonight in the chat. Thank you so much. Steven says, "How come I obsess over your soon-to-be ex-wife? You can't stop wondering what she is up to. Um, you are the one who asked for the divorce because of her abuse, but I am so OCD over her." So let me challenge if this is so OCD over her, because Stephen, this is something that's also very common, that even though you may be the one that started the divorce, and you may be the one who wanted it, and you may see that life is going to be potentially so much better without somebody who you report was abusing you, there's still going to be a part of your brain that goes, yeah, but what if, right? What if we could have worked it out? What if it would have turned out okay? And you're going to remember when you first met each other, and the love and the unicorn farts and rainbows and everything that you experienced when you first met each other. There's going to be a part of you that's going to have doubt no matter what, right? And Stephen, I think what you're experiencing there is the doubt piece. And you're going to wonder those things because you're going to wonder, is she dating someone else? Were they better than me? Did they figure out how to get along with her better than I did? What did they know that I didn't know? How did I screw up? And you're going to look at a lot of self-blame in this kind of experience as well too. And I just want you to recognize that, again, very normal, natural kinds of things for people who are breaking up relationships. It's just not uncommon to experience those kinds of things whatsoever. Holly says, how can OCD affect sex? OCD spouse perspectives. Well, OCD can lead to lots of issues with intimacy. Number one, if it's a relationship OCD, people can get into their head so much about their performance, and if it's good enough, that it actually interferes with their performance. People with contamination issues could be suddenly disgusted by bodily fluids, and coming in contact with genitals, which is also where pee and around the corner from where the poop comes from. And so that could feel really uncomfortable for a lot of people now who are suddenly having issues with contamination as well. So, Holly, those are just a few areas where you might see these types of concerns happen. Um, let's say also, Holly, maybe you're married to somebody who did experience perinatal OCD after the birth of a child, and now you're thinking about having another child, and it will be very hard for that person to potentially get all of that out of their head, and that could also interfere with performance as well too. So um, OCD again grabs onto these things and will run with them as long as it possibly can. Chelsea says, you don't know why, but your OCD switched to me being bad to my partner, being a bad person, and doing immoral things to me or my loved ones. Can OCD do this? Yes. Well, since Beth, our resident therapist, thank you, Beth, once again, has answered before me. Yes, OCD switches all the time. So thank you, Beth, and Chelsea, Beth, our gold star winner for the night on the on the chat, absolutely is correct that OCD could do it. I'm not going to sit here and conjecture with people about why it happens, because we'll never come up with a satisfactory answer. I could get 10 different psychologists in a room with you. All 10 of them can give you a different reason as to why this has happened. You will doubt every one of them, and none of them will probably totally agree with each other on it either. And therefore, the why, it turns out, is just not as important, frankly, as the what are you going to do about it experience. The why is just not where we want to go with it. What are you going to do about it is so very much more important in this kind of situation. Kyle says the head can be a scary place. It's crazy where it can take you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Dominique says, is it normal to question if your thoughts are actually something that you want to happen, even though you wish you didn't have the thoughts? Yeah, 100%. That is another pretty standard OCD thing. Doubting about your thoughts, what the meaning is behind your thoughts, what the reasoning is behind your thoughts. What if I really wanted this thought? What does that say about me as a person if I did want this thought? Can other people tell if I do or don't want this thought? Now that I've had this thought, will it change me as a person? What will it mean about me as a person? All of those kinds of things are going to be there. So, absolutely, Dominique, 100%. Michael says, "Hey Doc, don't know if it's different for everyone, but have you personally seen more success against OCD with Luvox or Prozac? Thank you." It really is by the person. I've seen probably equal amounts of people who have done well on either of them, and who have not done switch to the other one and that did okay. So um, there's even now actually genetic tests out there that one can take that will tell you which medication will potentially be better for you than others. So that might be something that you might want to ask your provider about as well too, so that you don't have to go through the back and forth of trying this and then seeing how it works, then trying that, seeing how it works, and things of that. Victoria says, "Can your obsessions to vary day by day?" Sure. Most of my intrusive thoughts are related to harm OCD, but I also pick up new themes. Is that normal? It's so discouraging. And as our resident person Beth has said, thank you, Beth. You can't control your thoughts, and things change all the time. So thank you, Beth. Beth, we should get you on here one time. You'd be a co-host with me. This would be wonderful. Uh, B says, "Can OCD send you false emotions?" Of course. Why wouldn't it be able to? Would be the question, because OCD can try to manipulate anything that it possibly can. Sunshine asks, "What do you recommend for somatic OCD?" And that's going to be typically things like focusing on, did you blink your eyes correctly? How do I know if I got enough air in there? Should I really focus on my breathing? And what if I'm not? And will I get enough air? And so what I want you to do, Sunshine, is to maybe only focus on those things, right? This is what I would do if I had somebody in a therapy session with me who had concerns about these things, and we're probably trying not to think about them, and therefore we're only thinking about them. I'd want them to do the opposite. I want you to think about every blink of your eye, every breath that you take, until the point that it's so exhausting that you stop doing it. So, um, could you purposely try to breathe in too little? Yeah, sure. All right, guess what? You breathe in a little bit less than you normally would on that work. What is that going to do for your health? Well, absolutely nothing, because you're going to compensate on your next breath with probably more air coming in, right? Or what if you didn't blink quite right this time? Well, you're going to blink again in probably the next 3 to 7 seconds. And so, therefore, um, why do we have to be worried about these things? When OCD takes something that we do naturally, but then says suddenly that we need to pay attention to it because what if we did it wrong? We're then taking it out of the natural experience and putting it under the purview of OCD and believing that it must be paid attention to. But these things are controlled in a part of the brain where it is automatic. We don't have to think about it. You don't have to think about moving your diaphragm. Your brain is just doing it naturally. You don't have to think about your heart beating. It's just beating naturally. You don't have to think about breathing your eyes, or breathing your eyes, sorry, blinking your eyes. Breathing your eyes would be very strange. You don't have to think about blinking your eyes because it happens naturally. But OCD says, but what if we don't do things right the natural way, or we don't do things naturally correct, or something, some variation of that, and now wants you to keep thinking more and more and more and more about this. And again, that's exactly what OCD does, because it's kind of a jerk of a disorder, and it gets you to doubt stuff, even stuff that you don't even have to think about. It gets you to try to think about and doubt it. Let's see. Katrila. There we go. Your 14-year-old daughter has struggled intensely with severe OCD for many years. Sorry to hear that. And it has been incredibly challenging for you to get appropriate care with a specialist using ERP. I hope you're going to think about NoCD. Thankfully, in the past month, she had great support and therapy with a NoCD therapist. Awesome. Which is, we were able to set up thanks to the No OCD campaign with Howie Mandel, for which we were able to have a temporary discounted rate. Awesome. We're hoping to find out if military care leaders help support NoCD. Um, yes, military families deal with many sacrifices and deployments and things of that nature. On top of it, extending more affordable rates. Thank you so much for considering. Yeah, so reach out to our care team, and we do have a special military rate that we have. So, if let's say that you're in the military and you've been thinking about treatment for this, we have a rate for you here at NoCD as a thank you for your service to our country. let's say that you're at a point where you're thinking, I'm a little bit on the fence about this, but I don't have insurance and I don't know if I could afford this therapy. What do I do? Well, here's what I'm going to offer you. Between now and the end of the month of May, I'm going to give you a discount. All right. So reach out to our No CD care team, right? You can go to nocd.com. You can hit that button there to talk to one of our care team members. And if you are new to OCD and we get you in, you're willing, you're ready to go, you're going to have that appointment by the end of May. We'll give you, if you're cash pay, we'll give you a discount for, let's say, the first 2 months that you're going to do no CD therapy. Okay. So reach out to us at nocd.com. Now, strike while the iron is hot. If that's what you needed to finally get you to make the move, get a hold of us. Let's see what we can do to help you. Abby says, do you have any suggestions for all or nothing thinking or ERP actions to do the help stop ruminating about if someone is the one? Thanks, Doc. Someone is the one. Sounds like some relationship-based OCD kinds of issues there, potentially. I don't know that anyone is the one. I'm maybe I'm a skeptic, but I hear these discussions of soulmates. Um, I think there's probably 10,000 people out there that all of us could match up with. It just depends on which one of them we meet. You know, otherwise, it's rather amazing that all of our soulmates typically live within 3 miles of us. But most of the time, I would find that very odd. Um, I think there's thousands and thousands of people that we would be compatible with that are out there in the world. It's which one that we're going to meet with. And Abby, what you're doing here is wondering if this person is the one. OCD would like to tell you, of course, that there is the one, that is the way that it is, and that you better not do anything to screw it up with this one because they are the one. And if you lose it with this one, you'll never have anyone ever again because they are the one to have. But Abby, I'm going to ask you, when would we ever trust any messaging from OCD, right? Would we ever actually want to believe anything that OCD says? Would we ever take OCD very seriously and think that it had our best interest at heart for us? So even in this kind of messaging, Abby, I do not believe at all that OCD is telling you the truth, that this person is the only one for you and that there would never be anything else out there for you ever. I hope that this person is wonderful for you if you're with them, and I hope that you can have a wonderful relationship with them that isn't influenced by OCD. But my concern would be this: if you start to look at them as the one, it might feel like you're going to desperately hold on to the relationship out of fear that if they're gone, then you'll never have anyone again. I'm reminded of a therapist I heard do a talk one time, and it was really interesting. So I have to adjust my headset for a second. It was really interesting. He talked about when he proposed to his wife, and he said, I got down on one knee and I looked up at her and I said, I can't live without you. Will you marry me? And he said, her response was, I can live without you, but I don't want to. And yes, I will marry you. I thought that was fantastic. Just amazingly awesome answer. Abby, if you're going to approach someone as if you can't live without them, OCD is going to grab onto that. But you know what? I want you to be with someone, Abby, because you want to be with them, not because you feel like you can't function or live without them, or that they are the only one, and that if you don't hold on to them, there's nothing left for you. That's not the basis of a relationship that we want to work on. So my hope, Abby, is that when you have that in your head, you say to yourself, wait a minute, hold on, hold on. They are someone I love, and that is good enough. And that's why I want to be with them. And there doesn't have to be any other reason than that at all. Okay. Victoria says, sometimes when I pick up a new obsession, it feels as though I'm fighting a monster that keeps getting bigger and bigger. And then you probably see, and most people do, you deal with it, and then a new one pops in, and then it feels like that's the worst one that you've ever had to deal with. How many of you, if you feel like putting this in the chat, please feel free to do so. How many of you have had an obsession and said, whew, this is the worst thing I've ever dealt with in my life, and then had another obsession, and now the old one that was the worst thing you ever dealt with in your life suddenly doesn't feel like anything anymore because this new one feels so awful and horrible and overwhelming that it seems like it's the worst thing in your life. Do you know how many people with OCD I've treated who I've seen that happen to? Who just consistently are like, well, that doesn't bother me anymore. But this one, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. Well, how was that the worst thing ever last month? And now what happened? OCD is playing a little hot potato here, right? And it's going to keep trying to throw things at you to keep you from you know being able to settle in and recognize that you can handle it. And it's going to keep throwing new things at you to say, oh, now, but wait a minute, now this is actually awful. And then if you start working on that, it'll be like, all right, whatever. But oh, now this is really awful. Don't fall for the trick. It's just another piece of trickery from OCD. You don't have to fall for the trick. Michael says, tips for more success in a relationship with OCD, especially if they have OCD too. um, yes, make an agreement with each other, Michael, to not provide each other safety behaviors, to not give each other reassurance, to not provide distraction for each other, to not allow for avoidance, to not get into substances as a way to manage it, and to not help each other do compulsions. That would be my biggest tip for people who are in a relationship with someone who have OCD, or if both of you have OCD as well too. Let's see. Had a lot of relationship ones. I'm going to skip over some of those. I think we've answered a bunch of those. Get into a couple of other things here. Is OCD lifelong? Yeah, probably. Right. It's not that I've ever seen someone not have OCD anymore. I've seen people not be affected by OCD anymore, but they still tell me that, yeah, there's urges to do compulsions and things like that. If we're going to identify the occurrence of OCD as intrusive thoughts, then we have a bigger issue, right? Because everybody has intrusive thoughts. So I don't want to limit our definition to OCD. When you say, am I going to have this forever? As in, am I going to have intrusive thoughts forever? My answer is always going to be yes, because even if you didn't have OCD, you would have intrusive thoughts forever, because everybody in the world has intrusive thoughts. So we don't want to look at it that way, like having intrusive thoughts is awful, because for many people, it's not awful at all. They just don't even pay attention to it or care about it. But if you're looking at it as you're going to react to intrusive thoughts with compulsions, well, that's what we really want to work on in treatment with people, right? To teach them that they don't have to do compulsions in reaction to intrusive thoughts or images or urges. Will there be urges to do that? There probably will be for quite a while, and maybe for the rest of your life. But just because there's urges there doesn't mean that you have to do it. Doesn't mean they have to follow through on it whatsoever at all. Let's see. Oh, people are replying to Geraldine too on some of the perinatal things as well. Awesome. Rob Jr. says, trying to declutter my home, feel like I'm a memory hoarder. Tips on what I can tell myself to get rid of things that formerly brought me joy. First of all, I like the fact that it's formally brought you joy. Maybe they're not bringing you joy anymore, and there could possibly be going on in this kind of situation here. This idea that um, if you do get rid of this thing, you'll never be able to feel joy again. And so, Rob, I would challenge just with one item first. Just give it a go, give it a try, see what it would be to donate that item to someone else or to, you know, a charity or something of that nature. You know, I have a bit of a personal story on this one. I recently had a garage sale, and many of you know my wife passed away last year. And so I finally just had to start gathering stuff up in the house, right? And start to get some things out of there, make donations. I've donated to a lot of women's shelters and domestic violence and abuse shelters, and there's going to be some amazingly dressed people at those places, which I'm thrilled that her Susan's legacy will live on like that. Um, but at the garage sale, I was selling some of her old toys, and there was a woman, probably in her late 30s, early 40s, who had Down syndrome, who found a box that I had of some Cabbage Patch Kids and clothes and things like that, and I had them all priced out, and her mom was with her, and they were talking, and so I just went up to the two of them and I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll just give you the whole box for this." It was a ridiculously low price, and the look of joy on this woman's face was one of the greatest things I've ever seen, and made the entire weekend of doing the garage sale worth it. Um, I'm not going to forget Susan because I don't have some of her toys. But you know what I have now is a memory of someone who is so excited to have some of the toys that she had, who I know is going to love them and play with them. And I couldn't be more thrilled at getting something out of my house and getting to declutter some things with how it turned out. So Rob, I want you to know that there can be joy in decluttering. Just like those things once brought you joy, you can also find joy in getting rid of things as well too. And I will cherish that memory, that moment of my life for the rest of my life. And I am thrilled to know that there is someone out there now who is enjoying, absolutely enjoying something of Susan's, and her memory is living on in that situation. Makes me amazingly happy. So, yep, you can find some joy in decluttering as well too. We are getting toward the end here, and I still have not smashed in my face with the candlestick, even though I've thought about wanting to, and I thought I would enjoy it. And I have the candlestick right here as well in my hand. Um, so I think we'll probably go another week here without now the house burning down and falling apart and the ceiling collapsing and myself bashing my face in with some candlestick as well too. And we're gonna be okay with that. We're gonna live with that. We're gonna recognize absolutely that we can handle that. So, again, it's been a joy being here with all of you. I am Dr. Patrick McGrath, Chief Clinical Officer here at NoCD. NoCD is the world's leading provider of virtual therapy for obsessive compulsive disorder, and we offer evidence-based treatment for children and adolescents and adults. Check out our amazingly, awesomely trained therapists at nocd.com. You can see all of them there. And if you're ready for therapy, check us out at nocd.com. Hit that therapist button. We see people all around the world. We would love to help you. We take insurance here in the U.S. And if you don't have insurance and you're brand new to us here at NoCD and you're willing to get a session in by the end of the month, we've got a nice discount running for you as well. So go to nocd.com and check us out and set up one of those appointments with one of our care team members, and we're going to get you set up and get you the therapy that you need for OCD or hoarding or body focused repetitive behaviors or tics. Thanks for being here once again, everyone. We'll see you again in a week.